first part of the cave is kind of narrow, so if I get stuck, just give me a kick or two and I'll get through.
Okay.
But after that, it's not bad. So.
There's that pretty woman.
They gave me a couple really bad ones. They're pretty bad. You need to go back right now? Right here in the bit? Okay. When you stand up here, the ceiling's really low, so watch your head. Now go ahead and continue.
And then the gift shop freaking out.
Hey dear.
Huh?
Hi. Look at this.
This is nice.
In the cave, that passageway right down there was filled in with sediments. And so when the local children would come down here, this would be as far as I could go. Now the first one is our elephant. See his ear, head, trunk, tusk. Over here we've got a rabbit, his head, body. It's got kind of a strange tail. And there we've got a squirrel holding an acorn. And right back here is our Rushmore Cave moon.
I don't get Donald Duck's foot.
Is that one hanging from the ceiling?
No, I don't see it.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Have you guys been to Keystone at all?
Yeah.
And seen those t-shirts that say we must be behind Mount Rushmore?
Oh, good.
Man, I don't really know a whole lot about all these because I don't ever see them anyway. Supposed to be a lot of them. What's going to happen is Justin's going to come through here. And he's going to notice a little change of scenery in here. Does anybody know what these formations on the ceiling are?
Stalactites.
Stalactites, very good. How about the ones on the floor?
Stalagmites.
Stalagmites. Now the tricky part, does anybody know what they're made of? Water helps make them.
Limestone. Calcium.
Calcium carbonate, that's right. We made our calcium carbonate, which is also called calcite. And the reason we've got formations in this room and none of the previous ones is right now we're standing under a flat meadow. Up until this, we'll start building back towards that ceiling again, we have our third stage, which is our mature stalactite. Now on these drip, they'll deposit some remaining calcite on the floor down here, make a stalagmite. But sometimes they'll drip on an uneven surface, like a hillside over here. And I can turn on my flash. And it's also called cave basin. Now altogether, these formations are called dripstone formations, and they grow about 1/4 of an inch every 100 years. So they're pretty old. Any questions?
They're kind of small, like compared to Carlsbad. Is it because this is a younger cave, or because it's such an arid region?
Well, we don't get a... So you guys have any eagle?
Yes.
Hey, babe.
We have the Mexican bats flying on another cave.
Huh?
Body oil. Tranny stuff is a body oil. You can't get that off. So it'll never go back together. But on a little happier note, this right up here is our wedding chapel. And people used to get married here a lot in the 30s and the 40s. We'll still do a wedding or two today. The last one we had was in 1993 during the Sturgis Rat. Wants to get married here, renew your vows, you're more than welcome to. The only requirement we have is kind of cave tradition. Now I'll go well, the next one we're going to go to is
You a pretty woman.
That's been hundreds of years, honey.
Yeah.
You coming in?
Yeah.
Well, you can take a snapshot off the film.
Side.
It is the side. That's the front. Okay.
Whether you want to be or not.
Or not.
A place where millions of bison roamed freely throughout the plains. And those who lived off the land revered it as sacred ground. Yet this country would face a dramatic change quickly becoming the most advanced nation in the world, in technology, in peace, and in power. From its inception, the United States has shaped itself under the guidance of strong leaders, leaders who have taken risks, stood up to adversity, and never let go of their vision for a better country. Mount Rushmore reminds us of them, and the countless Americans who have made great sacrifices to ensure the lasting legacy of our country. Freedom. We strived for it, we died for it, we live for it. The Black Hills of South Dakota. State historian Doane Robinson proposed that these granite outcroppings could be the site of an enormous monument dedicated to the heroes of the West, such as Lewis and Clark and Chief Red Cloud. But commissioned sculptor Gutzon Borglum had a different concept in mind. Borglum was a passionately patriotic man and believed that a more fitting tribute should honor the American experience. A memorial that would represent our ideals, our dreams, and our accomplishments as a country. A memorial that would convey a spirit of patriotism. Borglum chose his canvas carefully, the giant granite rock face of Mount Rushmore. And in 1927, work on the mountain began. Borglum assembled a team of local miners, ranchers, and lumbermen to help with construction. The sculptor built a model of the presidents to serve as a guide. Every inch on the model represented 1 foot on the mountain. Year after year, Borglum and his crew hung perilously off the side of the mountain, drilling and blasting their way to reach granite solid enough for carving. It took 14 years and nearly $1 million to complete the 4 60-foot faces. And even though the sculptor did not live to see the very final touches put into place, he was able to carry out his vision. 4 great Americans immortalized in stone, symbolizing the democratic society in which we live, the struggle for our independence, the fight for our freedom, and the sacrifices we have made since our country began more than 200 years ago. America's national anthem.
she'll hand in the he's a certified surgeon.
Let's go.
They're going to assist me. We're going to go through a kind of a story of Sven and Anna. We're going to try to go back, way back there. We made up some little posters. I don't know if everybody can see these or not. But Sandy's going to read the narration. It's in one of the books from North Dakota where I took this information out of.
I'm not Swedish or Finnish, so if you want to, if you want to correct me on the pronunciation, feel free, because this is something that I do. But Sven Petter Hallberg was born June 20th, 1841 in Sweden. At 19 years of age, he went to Norway where he joined the armed forces. He served there until 1867. In 1868, he married Ragnhild Gulbrandsen. 2 children were born in Norway.
We have a good friend. The sir is John, who was born in 69, died in 92. He's 23 years old. I don't think we have a relative. No. 2 children. Over Brandon.
Having attended every reunion since 1984, and I know there's others who have too, but Irene happens to be the oldest. So that's why she's getting it. You also have to get a crown. That's because for all the work that you do on this book, it's just fantastic. Oh, yes. Yes, it's great. Yes, it's great. So you can wear that with pride also.
Said the Halbert family was a horny bunch.
Nobody cares.
A hard group.
Yeah. What was the song you were singing, Bill?
Nobody knows. I passed a hat and I got absolutely 0.
I don't know. I'll start. They left for San Diego midnight on 4th of July. They chose this town to stop in on their journey to South Dakota in Ogallala, Nebraska. And fate would have it, the morning of the 5th, was it, or what? I get a phone call from my sister.
Going. I said, well, gee, I'm going to your home country, Italy, and Rome, and he said, oh, God. He said, how you going? How you getting there? He said, I'm flying Italian Air. He said, oh, I hate it. It's cramped seats, dirty couch, oh, there's bugs all over the place. Italian Air is no good. He said, well, where are you going to stay when you're in Rome? And I said, well, at the Rome Hill. Oh, that place, that's dirty sheets. No, the food is bad, the help is bad, they're snotty. Oh, you won't like that at all. He said, well, what are you going to do when you're in Rome? I said, well, I thought I'd probably go see one of the Pope's outdoor masses. Oh, God, don't do that. 10,000 people out there in the heat. You'll hate it. Geez, you won't like that at all. Sounds like what? So anyway, Lucky gave me my haircut and I left. About a month later, I came back from Italy. I went in to get a haircut. Lucky says, hey, by the way, how was that trip? I said, geez, love it. That Italian Air. Great, brand new planes, wide seats, good food. He said, yeah, how about that Rome Hill? Just remodeled. Queen-size beds, clean sheets, service great, breakfast in bed. I can't believe it. You know, how about that? Did you go see the Pope at Rome? I said, yeah. He said, oh, that was terrible. I said, no. As we were standing in line, And one of the security people come over and says, hey, would you like to have a private audience with the Pope? Yeah, hey, that'd be neat. So we had a private audience with the Pope. And Lucky says, well, what did the Pope say? And I said, he said, where'd you get that lousy haircut? Our first one to get off the bus is Maria. She's in her evening gown, still looking for a motel room. She came from Florida, and she still doesn't know which way to vote. She's looking for her Chad. Our next one to get off the bus is Mike Leckville. Now be quiet now. This guy is a mulligan waiting to happen. What's with that, my hat on? I'll start over. This guy is the mulligan waiting to happen. Michael Dean Leckville, just back from the Lakes where he scored 120, breaking his own personal best score for 9 holes. Mike is wearing his lucky hat, which protects him from inclement weather. His knickers are actually swimwear, which allows him to retrieve water balls or clubs, which often fly out of his hands. His shirt is custom made for ready access to extra golf balls. You get it? These can be used when looking for a lost ball. His shoes are made for walking, also waterproof. His club is hand-tooled in Sweden by a pissed-off Swede out to get a Norwegian. Mike's saving grace is his sense of humor, usually at the expense of a Swede. Heading straight to the Friday night fish fry over Gulch Resort. She's wearing the newest craze to hit the nation. Today she has chosen rubber ducky shorts, along with a bright yellow top adorned with creatures of the sea. The back is slightly open, which gives the illusion of a fish. Of a fish net. Note her hand-printed floppy hat. That is a perfect match to the fish on the front of her elbow. She has chosen yellow ducky anklets to wear with her white sandals. Around her neck, she's wearing a one-of-a-kind necklace, a golden fish on a string. She's carrying a jumbo-sized tote, ready to fill with leftovers from the fish fry. Ever since Jody fell in love with Scott Pike, alias Old Walleye, she has a fixation with fish. As she makes the rounds from fish fry to fish fry, it gives her the perfect opportunity to promote her latest cause, to legalize lunafish. Here's Sid Jelinek. Sid's a well-known gambler in California. The reason he's so well-known is because he always loses. To change his luck, he thought he'd come to Deadwood. You can see why he's so unlucky, because he loses most of his money before he even gets to the casino. Karen is in a god-awful, green outfit that is clearly meant for comfort only. While traveling around the U.S., the Buffalo will definitely see her coming from a long way off.
There it is. Wait, are there any thrift stores in this area?
Right down the corner, man.
Oh, okay, now I gotta head there for a
Thanks,
party.
Karen, whichever Karen. Opal's from Arizona. Opal's wearing swimwear, especially for the reunion. Opal is conditioned to live in 115-degree temperatures while floating down the Salt River, her favorite summertime activity. However, she created this suit to keep goosebumps from taking over. When she jumped into the pool here at the ranch, the pool turned red and she sunk like a rock. But being a resourceful humbug that she is, she stuffed her suit with balloons to keep her afloat. Opal loves contests and wants to know if you can guess how many balloons she stuffed into her suit to keep her afloat.
I want you all to guess how many
24.
Are stuffed into this suit?
9. 30.
For older sister Donna,
Her sister Donna.
has always wanted to get back at her sister for many, many reasons. So with a hat pin in her hand, here goes the count. We'll count each one to pop. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
That's a real
Shorts with red suspenders, which also function as a slingshot for killing snakes. A hat to ward off the elements, properly monogrammed, to ward off Swedes. A t-shirt which demands respect. It must be obvious to all that attempting to get anything past this South Dakota Wrangler would be as fiddle as saying, sneak daylight by a rooster.
What?
All right, pretend I didn't say that. It must be obvious to all that attempting to get anything past this South Dakota Wrangler would be as futile as trying to sneak daylight by a rooster. North Dakota, by way of Walled Run. Northward's free ice water and various items advertising the famous South Dakota landmark. Lynette picked one up for free bumper stickers. However, her husband David would not let her stick it on his new truck. So she creatively found the next collection. Thank you, Horse Monument. She's all set in their mountain climbing outfit. Knickers made tough, bright-colored nylon and hiking boots made from real gold, lined the back hills of South Dakota. Nor her hot pink headband that can double as a safety hook. Perfectly used while taking that much needed water break on the way to the top, her backpack is not only colorful but functional. It will easily hold her Swedish survival kit, a 32-ounce bottle of Oof de Lager, and a canned pickle herring. She picked that up at the wall rug. As you can see by her backpack, she's quite the world traveler, visiting places worldwide. Hawaii, Paris, Rome, London, and even Adams, North Dakota. Today she's wearing her most treasured souvenir from her travels, an original design t-shirt with the skyline of beautiful downtown Cleveland. Judy Limpo, world traveler and fashion queen. Judy, what the hell are you wearing that for?
Because I'm going to Mexico and I just got on the wrong bus. So I'm here with all these tacky people.
Where the hell's a Corona?
That's what I like to know.
Thank you, Judy.
Welcome to Crazy Horse Memorial, which honors the North American Indian, all tribes. It's a mountain carving and much more. This is how the non-profit memorial will look when completed, a vast educational and cultural center. It'll include the Indian Museum of North America and the University and Medical Training Center for the North American Indian. The focal point is the mountain, where the face of Crazy Horse was completed and unveiled in 1998. That was on the memorial's 50th anniversary, which included the first blast of the second 50 years of progress. Area elders picked Crazy Horse for the mountain carving, and they insisted the memorial be located in the Black Hills. The hills are revered by native people such as Olympic champion Billy Mills.
Crazy Horse Memorial, I think, needs to be, it represents two things to me. It represents the integrity of our elders who asked Korshak to build a monument honoring one of our chiefs in our sacred Black Hills. And that is a commitment we should never lose sight of. Just as I will never ever lose the feeling, the sacredness of the Black Hills to me. Our elders made a commitment. They went to Korshak to build a monument honoring our people, our way, our culture, our values. I think the elders were not only correct, I think it was visionary to put a man who I think is sacred, his image is sacred, and to place it in the Black Hills, which is sacred. It's the only place it could have been.
To carve the mountain, the elders picked sculptor Korczak Ziolkowski, whose physical appearance changed along with the mountain. Following his death in 1982, the project's been continued by his wife Ruth and their large family. In 1939, the sculptor's dramatic marble portrait of Paderewski won first prize at the New York World's Fair. That gave Chief Standing Bear and his fellow chiefs the idea to invite Korczak to the Black Hills.
You know, I've been around since I was a year old. I was born in Boston. I was brought up an Irish prize fighter. And I always told him when I was 16 I was going to beat, but I was just going to whip him, that's all. When I was 16 I couldn't quite do it, so I left him. I went to work on the waterfront. And I always said I wanted to do something worthwhile with my life. And I wanted to become a sculptor. And one day when I was 13, I heard about this man, Baldwin, carving a mountain. Little thinking that about 16 years later, I'd been working as his assistant on Mount Rushmore. Then I got a letter from this old Indian I'd never met, Standing Bear. And he asked if I'd build a memorial to their people, so the white people know that that man had great heroes also. Well, having brought myself up and being American of Polish descent, I thought that wasn't too much to ask for. And I had no place to go, so I decided to dedicate my life doing this.
Korczak felt both the glory and the tragedy of the Native American were reflected in Crazy Horse's short life and death. His sculpture shows Crazy Horse declaring proudly, "My lands are where my dead lie buried."
He was a spiritual leader, he was a warrior. He portrays what I see as a Lakota, a spiritual existence, a spiritual being living a human experience. And that was Crazy Horse. You hear that there are photos of Crazy Horse. No one has any real authenticity of what he looked like. There may be a photo of Crazy Horse, there may not be. What I see in the mountain is the spirituality of indigenous people, the spirituality of the Lakota people. And one person is never greater than the sum. And Crazy Horse represents the sum, I think, of Lakota people, the sum of indigenous people. And the image, the spirit of Crazy Horse, the core, his soul, is what I focus on, not whether a photo is authentic or not. So I think it's fair to ask what Crazy Horse might think of the memorial. I think Crazy Horse, because he was a spiritual being, and we all, globally, if we really truly focus on our existence, we're spiritual beings living a human existence. I think Crazy Horse can see the value. We need these human existences to teach as we understand and empower ourselves spiritually. And Crazy Horse is one of the most powerful teaching tools globally to enhance the understanding of Native people worldwide.
Crazy Horse was one of the strategists at the Battle of the Little Big Horn. He never surrendered, never signed a treaty, and refused to live on a reservation. He was stabbed in the back by a soldier while under a flag of truce. Crazy Horse died on September 6, 1877. Korchak was born 31 years later on that same day, September 6th. Many Native Americans consider that an omen he was destined to carve Crazy Horse. The memorial began very humbly. Korchak lived in a tent the first 7 months. Like a pioneer, he cut trees to build a log studio home. There was nothing here, no roads, water, or electricity. When he started work on the 600-foot-high mountain, Korchak was almost 40 and had only $174 left to his name.
So you imagine how humble I started with the mountain. I started with a single jacket, a hammer, and a steel. And I drilled my holes around 3-4 feet deep and blew them off. Then I bought an old compressor. It was 24 years old, no Buddha. Weighed around 4 tons. And I put a pipeline 2,440 feet long from the compressor on the ground to the top of the mountain. And I bought a jackhammer. Now this took 2 years to get all this done. And then I bought another hammer, and then my steel. Dynamite is rather expensive, and my electric caps. So for the first 7 years, I climbed up 741 steps, and I carried everything up on my back. When I go up, I start the big compressor. I used to crank it, you know, and I put a 50-pound box of dynamite in one shoulder, put a wire, a string of bits around my neck. Then I'd take maybe an 8 or 10 or 12, 14-foot steel in my left hand, and that's how I start up the mountain. The old Buddha, the old compressor, was kind of decrepit, and I get sometimes part of the way up, and I just hear that thing go kaput, 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 kaput. Put everything down, walk all the way down the staircase, start it up again, crank it up, wait there 5 minutes, start up the mountain, pick everything up, go up to the top, which is quite a distance, put all my things down, get my air valve cleaned out, oil the hammer, pick it up, get my starter steel in it. Just start to drill one hole, get down about a foot, and you can hear the big Buddha. Kaput to kaput to kaput. Down I go again. One day I did that 9 times. You know, that gets awful old. Oh, I tell you, that walk up and down there is terrible.
Korchak worked alone for years, but mountain goats kept him company. The goats loved the staircase, and they climbed it right along with Korchak. They've never left in spite of the decades of blasting. The old Buddha symbolized the severe financial hardship, but there also was joy. Korchak married Ruth Ross, and they began their family of 10 children, 5 boys and 5 girls. Korchak even delivered one of them. There were so many kids in school at one time, they attended their own one-room school at Crazy Horse. They also learned by helping their parents in rather unusual ways.
Well, see now, you see why we had 10 children. They were all, the boys were necessary up on the mountain, and the girls were necessary down here to help Mother with the visitors. That was rather hard work to keep on pounding that dynamite in.
The first blast took off only 10 tons. It was at the June 3rd, 1948 dedication, attended by 5 survivors of the Battle of the Little Big Horn. Comparing then and now shows the dramatic change, with more than 8 million tons of granite blasted off so far. The progress is measured in tons and in decades. The first rock removed was from the area in red, in front of Crazy Horse's face. It took Korchak 5 years working alone. Next, he leveled this area in red above the arm, which will be more than 200 feet long. Cutting the tunnel under the arm was the hardest part. When finished, that huge opening could hold a 10-story building. It took more than a decade to remove this area. It's in front of the horse's head, which will be 219 feet high. Korchak had blocked out much of the sculpture before he died. Since then, his family and others have removed over 1 million more tons. For size perspective, picture Mount Rushmore, where these marvelous heads are 60 feet high. All 4 heads on Rushmore combined would fit in just Crazy Horse's head, which is almost 9 stories tall. This huge bulldozer gives another size perspective. On the other side, one bulldozer did fly off the edge, but the lucky driver leaped to safety, just in the nick of time. Crazy Horse is the largest sculpture in the world. on a scale higher than the Washington Monument or the tallest Egyptian pyramid. Overall, the Crazy Horse Colossus will be 563 feet high and 641 feet long. And the entire mountain is being carved three-dimensionally in the round. The work on the mountain is done by one of the top explosives engineering teams in the country. They use small jackhammers and big hydraulic drills and a variety of high explosives. One of the finishing tools is a dangerous supersonic torch. Following completion of Crazy Horse's face, work began on the massive horse's head. It'll be 22 stories high. The ears will be 42 feet long, the nostrils more than 30 feet in diameter. All the progress is guided by Korczak's scale models and books of measurements he prepared for that purpose. 18 years younger than her husband, Ruth Shilkovsky has directed the project since Korczak's death. 7 of their sons and daughters work with her in a dynamic team effort. The visiting public also plays a key role because all the revenue for the nonprofit memorial comes from admissions, contributions, and gift sales. Crazy Horse is not a federal or state project because Korczak felt the interested public and not the taxpayer should finance the memorial. He believed so strongly in the free enterprise system, he twice turned down $10 million in potential federal funding. He felt the government would not complete the mountain carving and would not carry out the project's humanitarian goals. Ruth and their family share that philosophy.
The financial philosophy here at Crazy Horse has remained the same over all the years. Korczak believed in individual initiative and private enterprise. He didn't think that you had to stand around with your hand out waiting for the government to finance a project. This project has been financed entirely by people coming in here and with their contributions and admissions. And it is not a federal or state project and will not be. We could go faster if we had more money, and it's people like yourselves who make this all possible. It doesn't have to be cash. Our museum, 90% of the items there have been gifts that we can share with others. We have a lot of equipment that has been given to us for the mountain. The explosives on the mountain are quite frequently gifts, and there are a lot of ways that people can help with things other than cash. People often ask when the mountain will be finished, and there is no definite answer, not because we're trying to be difficult, but it depends on the weather, it depends on finances, and Korczak always said it doesn't make any difference when it's finished. The important thing is that you keep on working and that there's always progress. I'm the luckiest person in the world. I love what I do. The magic that was here to start with has only grown, and it's just a wonderful life. Work is one of our greatest blessings. There's no question about it, and I love mine. And having the family together, and 7 of the 10 working with us, is just wonderful. The project at this point, and has been now for many years, is a family dream. The youngsters took up the dream as they were growing up. They have rallied around so well since Korczak passed away, and it's definitely a family project. And each one of the youngsters has a niche that they fill, a job that he or she does, and they can use their individual talents, and it's truly a family project. And it's wonderful to see them taking over so that you know there's continuity into the future.
Dad made it special, Dad and Mom made it special, and it's just that it's a dream, and it's a dream that can become reality. And it's important to be a part of that. I do see it as something a lot bigger, and I see it as a lot more pressure on us to make sure that it keeps going. You have to work harder to keep it going. It's a lot more work than it was, 5, 6, 7 years ago. After Dad died, there was an awful lot of pressure on us to see if we would, continue on, or if the family would fall apart. I felt those things from people. Everybody had a decision of what I was going to do or what Casimir was going to do. And it wasn't up to any of them, it was up to us to decide what we were going to do. You really had a lot of soul searching and things to do back then.
To me, it's the only job that I want to do for the rest of my life. He left us a letter that he wrote in 1952, and we never saw it until after he died. And he said in that letter that you don't have to do this, but if, after I'm gone, you take up the task of doing it, don't ever let it go.
I think it was born to us, the ones that chose to stay. I think, I don't know about the others, but I'm assuming they feel the same way, that I don't belong anyplace else. I like to go and visit, but I belong here.
Always at the heart of the memorial is Crazy Horse himself. He is a hero to many people, like Olympic gold medalist Billy Mills.
Crazy Horse is my hero for many, many reasons. I'm a member of the tribe, Oglala Lakota. Crazy Horse is Oglala Lakota. And growing up, we hear about Crazy Horse. Just the simple fact when he is asked, "Where are your lands now, Crazy Horse?" And he points and says, "My land is where my people lie buried." I've identified with that. The memorial to me represents actually one of our greatest values, one of the greatest traits we can have as Lakota people, and that's storytelling. It represents the past. I look upon myself as a Native person as a spiritual being, living a human experience. And the monument, Crazy Horse, represents the past, it represents the present, and it represents the future. It's, as Korshak has said so many times, storytelling in stone. Wherever I travel today, I'm on a college campus back east, I'm in a foreign country, and as we start talking, and as people become aware of me being an Olympic gold medalist, as they become aware of me being a member of the Oglala Lakota tribe, one name comes up, and that's Crazy Horse. And in conjunction with Crazy Horse comes up Korshak, the mountain. It's touched lives not just locally anymore, it's touching lives globally. It's changing and it's educating the future.
My lands are where my dead lie buried. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful? I'm a storyteller. I'm a storyteller in stone. And when standing there asked me to tell the story of their great chief who was killed many years ago, I want to tell the story of the North American Indian. I want to right a little of the wrong that they did to these people. Because this is part of American history. You know, there's an old saying, and I've quoted it 2 or 3 times in my life, and it goes like this: when the legends die, the dreams end. And when the dreams end, there is no more greatness.
We thank you all for coming. Now that you have seen the orientation program, there's a great deal more for you to see, and we don't want you to miss anything. The Indian Museum of North America, the outdoor veranda where the models of Crazy Horse are, and you can see the men working on the mound. Be sure you see our home in Korchak's studio and workshop. And in the Native American Educational and Cultural Center, there are Native American artists and craftspeople creating their work. Please take your time and see it all and make yourself right at home. And we hope in the future you'll come back as the years go on and watch the progress.
The year 2002 is the 20th anniversary of the death of Korchak. It's a year of rededication at the memorial. One of the commemoratives is a spectacular new video. It's about the drilling and blasting on the mountain. It takes you along with the workers for a close-up look at how Crazy Horse is being carved. The new drilling and blasting video and
Flowers sure are pretty. Oh, that's really stuck out to me.
Here's some change. I'm just gonna go look at this.
Or you want to go look through? Okay, you go look through the machine. I can take a picture of you looking through the machine. This is Mom looking at Crazy Horse.
That's the only reason. Why else would he be in there to teach you? What else would he teach you except to be like God? And we have to learn to recognize and depend on his ministry. Even in our circles, you know, we haven't really had the depth of the revelation on that we should have. I haven't known what I'm telling you very long. I have maybe known it in words, but I haven't known it in reality. And what we have to do is learn to trust, to depend on the Spirit of God. Recognize him. He said that he's waiting on us to recognize him as the one, to recognize the Holy Spirit as the one who comes to our aid and bears us up. And I had already, when I saw this, I'd already received revelation on Romans 8:26. It says the Spirit of God, that's exactly what he does. He comes to our aid, bears us up in our weakness. And I already knew that praying in the Spirit was that he's waiting on us. I hadn't thought about that. He's waiting on us to recognize him and his ministry of coming to our aid and bearing us up. And you know, that only makes sense because God doesn't do very many things automatically.
It's not a hero costume.
It's because he was an idiot.
Yeah.
That's what people want. There's so much talk about it.